Today I'm reading through my Common App essay that I submitted to various colleges and ultimately got me waitlisted at Cornell, one of the Ivies, and into UNC Chapel Hill in the Honors College and the Carolina Spring Forward program, along with Wake Forest, Patrick Henry College, and Furman University. I'm going to be going through my Common App, reading it, and stopping after each paragraph to talk about some of the good things in there and some of the things that I could have done to improve and be better. I'd love to hear your thoughts about my essays in the comments, and if there's any other essays you would like me to share, please comment that information below. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So the prompt that I chose to answer was, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? The reason I chose the topic I did was because it was a really big part of my junior year. I was in the zone hit by Hurricane Helene, and so that impacted me greatly. I'm sharing this because I know it'd be very difficult for anyone to use my exact same essay and just submit it to other colleges, but I also know that the elements I include here are key for any good college essay. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and read the first paragraph. Hands plunge into rich, musty earth, overturning matted soil and brushing wriggly worms. They prepare for spring. Here's the truth. Not every plant can be treated the same way. Lettuce thrives together, but okra must be spaced apart. Green beans need to be watered after several days without rain. Strawberries can be left without attention for months. Whatever you surround a plant with, water, sunlight, companions, good or bad, is exactly what it gives back. People are the same way. Everyone is unique and must be understood. Otherwise, they won't bear the most sumptuous fruit or appealing flowers. Understanding is the key to building a thriving garden of friends, classmates, and community. I start off with some vivid imagery with this garden, and that's a great hook to draw readers into the essay. It also becomes quickly apparent that this is an analogy, and it's being very reflective on how gardening is similar to building a community. It also shares something about me that you don't see in the rest of my application, gardening, which is something I had originally considered including in my activities list, but chose not to when I took on an additional volunteering activity. So this gives the reader a lot of insight, drawing them into the essay and helping them learn a little bit more about me as a person, creating this collaborative appearance. Next paragraph. Just because a plant receives the care it needs doesn't mean it's invincible. What happens when a hurricane tears out laboriously built relationships? That's what happened to my hometown when Hurricane Helene dumped 2 feet of rain into my town last year. It swept away people's homes, jobs, roads, and more. I was lucky, others were not so fortunate. I recognized that I would have to assess where my peers were at before life continued and we could bear fruit again. So this is the connection point between gardening and the story I'm kind of about to tell. Storytelling is a great way to draw readers in. You want to be careful. You don't want to stay too stuck in the past with your story. You want to be reflective about how you've grown from it and changed as a result. But who doesn't love a good story? Whenever you hear a sermon or a great speech, oftentimes it's going to conclude a personal story, which helps to keep the reader engaged. One important thing to note here is that I don't stay stuck on the traumatic thing that happened, right? A whole hurricane. I really only spend a couple sentences on it. However, I move on very quickly to the reflective part, to how I grew. I recognized that I would have to assess my peers and I would have to build upon this. When you're talking about a hardship, it's best not to go into tons of detail about the actual event itself. Of course, you can quickly explain, but you want to talk about how you were affected and how you grew and became a better person as a result, not just all these horrible things happened to me, I'm so disadvantaged, etc. Even if that is the case. Next paragraph. Remember, I'm talking about how I recognized my peers would have to be poured into before we could continue. This was especially apparent in my mock trial club. One friend's home was unlivable, another couldn't leave her property. My coach communicated later that he had been skeptical if our team would even make it to competition. Similarly, I remember the wrenching feeling that coursed through me as I realized how much effort it would take to grow again. This is where I recognized that people, just like the plants in my garden, had to be approached as individuals I was the person to nurture them. Each person longed for sustenance, but everyone was lacking in different ways. Some people needed tomato cages, others fencing, some a listener, and others an advisor. This is why I spent hours meeting with people outside of class and coffee shops, on Google Meet calls, and at Ingles grocery store. Not just building our competition case, but also establishing trust and listening to their stories so they knew I cared. Of course, I wanted mock trial to be a success, but first and foremost, they needed to understand that I supported them no matter what. In this portion, I do go into a little bit more detail on the hardships I faced just to set you up for what was this situation actually like. But then I pull in that gardening analogy once again that was talked about in the beginning. I compare these particular elements of gardening to people. And this is one point I could say I probably could have improved on is at this point it's feeling kind of old. That gardening analogy, I probably could have brought in some other kinds of analogies, maybe left some of the gardening things out entirely. But certainly there's nothing new and engaging, particularly about the way that I tell the story. One thing that is nice is I'm very specific here. I name a grocery store that I met people at local coffee shops. An even better thing is if I had mentioned a particular conversation that I had with one of my classmates, what they said, what I said, how they were directly impacted at that moment, could have given a little bit more personal insight into what I was actually doing. Next paragraph. With this foundation, it was impossible to keep my friends from prospering. Though we didn't continue past the regional tournament that year, we were beaten only by the first place team in the region. We also competed against teams from Charlotte who had longer to prepare. Not only was our performance superb, but it exemplified the close ties we had formed after months of relentlessly working together. I left the courthouse feeling light, whole, and satisfied. I recognized that we took what looked like an impossible circumstance, the deadliest hurricane to hit the U.S. mainland since Hurricane Katrina, and turned it into an opportunity to grow stronger than we would have without it. This ends with a little bit of reflection, but really concludes the story that I've been telling up to this point. What was the result? And this is a very important part to end any good stories. Just kind of the transition paragraph between that and reflection. Last paragraph. Since my experience in mock trial, I focused on not just sustaining the plants in my home garden, but the dreams of people around me as well. This has fostered understanding for the kids in teen court who make one mistake and deserve another chance, the classmates who failed to turn in an assignment because of a difficult week, and the homeless who are experiencing a rough chapter in their lives and need someone to show them love. I recognize that this lesson will always be valuable and hope it becomes a staple of my approach to life. I won't overlook those who are struggling, but give them the attention that they have earned as humans. Every plant is remarkable and deserves cultivation and the resources to flourish in the world's garden. This paragraph is probably where I could have grown the most. It's very short as far as reflection goes. There was plenty of reflection scattered through the course of my paper. However, some more on how this has changed me, especially since by the time I was writing this essay, Hurricane Helene had happened a full year before. And readers might have liked to know a little bit more about how this experience was impacting me right then. I did give some examples, but again, some specific examples, sitting down with particular people and how my work has impacted them using this approach that was investigated throughout the first 3/4 of my essay. Really, this whole last paragraph could have benefited a lot if it were just larger, if I had cut some more in my original story and focused more so on the reflection, showing how I'd grown, and also how I could apply the same approaches to college. The final thing I'll say is the last sentence was very general, very broad, and finishing with something that was a little bit more unique to me, even though it did bring that analogy that was the running theme of my essay back in, could have been good. Overall, I feel like my Common App essay was probably the best essay I submitted. I definitely spent the most time on it out of any one essay, and I would say most students should do that since you're submitting it to every school, and generally, the longer the essay, the more time you want to put onto it, and you're going to struggle to find many essays that are going to be longer than the Common App one. If there's particular values that you know the universities you're applying to value very highly, it's always great to sneak those into. Make sure you connect whatever story you tell, whatever reflection you tell with what you're doing right now and how that's going to help impact what you do in the future. If you appreciate this video, please like and subscribe, and if you have any requests for other essays or portions of my college application, or any ideas for future videos, whether it's college content, SAT, or ACT, please put those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.